Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. The evening air was heavy, laden with a silence that felt like the calm before a storm. Michael and I sat opposite each other, our dinner plates untouched, an invisible chasm stretching between us. The clock ticked loudly, marking time that neither of us seemed ready to acknowledge. Julia, there's something we need to talk about. Michael finally broke the silence, his voice steady yet carrying an undercurrent of tension. I looked up, meeting his gaze. What's wrong, Michael? You've been quiet all evening. He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized the handwriting on the page. It was mine. I found this in your journal, he said, his eyes not leaving mine. A cold wave of fear washed over me. My journal? Michael, why were you going through my things? He placed the paper on the table, pushing it towards me. I wasn't snooping, Julia. I was looking for a pen, and it fell open. But what I saw, it's hard to ignore. I unfolded the paper, my own list of names staring back at me, a list I had hoped to forever keep hidden. Michael, please understand, that was from before us. It's just a list of names, nothing more. A list of names? His voice rose, a mixture of disbelief and hurt. Julia, these are people you've been with, right? Why keep such a list? I swallowed hard, the weight of my past suddenly tangible between us. It's not what you think. It was a way to process my experiences, to move on. Move on. Michael's voice cracked. By documenting every person you've been with? How am I supposed to feel about this, Julia? I didn't mean for anyone to see it, especially not you, I whispered, my voice trembling. It was a part of my past I wanted to forget. Forget. He scoffed, shaking his head. How can we build a future if you're clinging to your past like this? I reached across the table, trying to find his hand, but he pulled away. Michael, please. Let me explain. It's not what it looks like. Then what is it, Julia? His gaze was piercing, demanding the truth. Tell me, because right now, all I see is a list of names that makes me question everything I thought I knew about you. The room felt stifling as I gathered my thoughts, trying to find the words to bridge the gap his discovery had created. Each name on that list, they were mistakes, lessons, moments of weakness. I was lost, Michael, and I was trying to find myself in all the wrong ways. And did you find yourself? His question was soft, almost pained. I thought I had, I admitted, my heart heavy. Until this moment, I thought I had moved past it all. Michael leaned back, running a hand through his hair. Julia, I don't know what to do with this. I thought we had no secrets, no shadows between us. I never wanted to hurt you, I said, the truth of my words stark in the silence. I was scared. Scared of losing you if you knew about my past. He stood up, pacing the room. I need time to think, Julia. This is a lot to take in. Watching him struggle with my past, a past I couldn't erase, I realized the magnitude of what my secrecy had cost us. Michael, I'm sorry. Truly, I never meant for my past to hurt our future. He stopped, turning to face me. I don't know if I can get past this, Julia. I need time to think, to decide if I can accept this part of you. As he walked away, the finality of the moment settled in. My past, once hidden in the pages of a journal, had come to light, casting a shadow over the love we shared. The discovery had opened a Pandora's box of doubts and fears, leaving our future uncertain. The days following the discovery were a blur of unspoken words and lingering glances, each moment heavy with the weight of unsaid thoughts. Michael had retreated into his shell, his usual warm demeanor replaced by a cold distance that seemed to widen with every attempt I made to bridge it. It wasn't until a chilly Thursday evening that the dam finally broke. We found ourselves seated on opposite ends of the living room, the air thick with tension. Michael, I began, my voice barely above a whisper. We need to talk about this. We can't keep avoiding it. He looked up, his eyes weary. I know, Julia. But every time I try to start this conversation, I don't know where to begin. Start with how you're feeling, I suggested, hoping to pave the way for a candid dialogue. He sighed, a sound filled with frustration and confusion. How am I feeling? Betrayed, Julia. Hurt. I feel like the person I thought I knew, the person I fell in love with, was just a facade. That's not fair, Michael, I countered, my heart aching at his words. Yes, I made mistakes in my past, but that's not who I am anymore. Mistakes. His voice rose, a bitter laugh escaping him. Is that what we're calling them? How do you justify keeping such a detailed record of your mistakes? I swallowed hard, knowing this was the moment to bare my soul, regardless of the consequences. Those mistakes were my way of coping, Michael. After everything I went through, they were a part of my healing process. Healing. He leaned forward, interest piqued despite himself. You call that healing? Let me explain, I pleaded, desperate for him to understand. After being abused, I was lost. I didn't value myself, so I looked for validation in all the wrong places. Each name on that list, it was a reminder of where I'd been and a promise to myself that I'd never go back. Michael's expression softened slightly, the harsh lines of anger giving way to a hint of empathy. Abused? You never told me about that. I was ashamed, I confessed, the words tasting bitter. My uncle, from when I was 5 until I was almost 13. It shaped so much of who I became. Why didn't you tell me, Julia? His voice was gentler now, the anger receding. I could have helped you carry that burden. I wanted to be stronger for you, for us. I thought if I could just bury it deep enough, it wouldn't affect us. I was wrong. Michael moved closer, the space between us no longer a chasm but a bridge. Julia, your strength isn't defined by your past. It's defined by how you've overcome it. But have I? I questioned, the doubt creeping in. Sometimes, I feel like it's all still there, just beneath the surface. We all have demons, Julia, Michael said, taking my hand in his. The question is, do we let them define us, or do we fight them together? I looked into his eyes, seeing the pain and love mingled within them. Can you forgive me, Michael? Can we move past this? He squeezed my hand, a silent vow of solidarity. I don't know, Julia, but I'm willing to try if you are. In that moment, our shared vulnerability became our strength, a fragile thread weaving together the tattered pieces of our relationship. The confessions and reflections of that evening laid bare the depth of our scars, but also the possibility of healing together. The fragile peace that had settled between Michael and me in the aftermath of our heart-to-heart was shattered one crisp autumn morning. I had woken up to find him pacing the length of our kitchen, a look of turmoil etched deep into his features. Michael, what's wrong? My voice was laced with concern as I approached him, noting the way his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. He stopped pacing, turning to face me with an expression that sent a shiver down my spine. I talked to Dave yesterday, he began, the name of his colleague hanging between us like a specter. And I prodded, a knot of apprehension forming in my stomach. He mentioned something about you, about your time at the department. Michael's voice was strained, each word seeming to cost him. I felt the color drain from my face. What did he say? My voice barely rose above a whisper, dread tightening its grip around my heart. He said there were rumors, Julia. Rumors about you, and some of the officers. Michael's gaze bore into me, searching for something I wasn't sure I was ready to reveal. Rumors? I echoed, my mind racing. How much did he know? How much was I willing to admit? Yes, rumors. Michael's frustration broke through, his voice rising. About parties, about relationships. Julia, why didn't you tell me? I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the counter. Because they were just that, rumors. Yes, I went to parties, and yes, I made mistakes. But that's not who I am anymore. Mistakes. His tone softened slightly, confusion and hurt warring within him. Julia, these aren't just little mistakes. These are things that could change everything. Michael, please, I pleaded, reaching out to him. You have to believe me. I was a different person back then, lost and searching for something, anything, to fill the void. He pulled away, running a hand through his hair in frustration. But why didn't you trust me enough to tell me? To give me the choice to understand? Because I was scared. The words burst from me, raw and honest. Scared of losing you. Scared of being judged by the person whose opinion matters most to me. Michael's expression softened, the anger giving way to a pained understanding. Julia, I'm not here to judge you. I love you. But I can't help feeling like there's a part of you I just don't know. I took a hesitant step towards him, my heart heavy with the weight of my past. Then let me show you. Let me share everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's the only way we can move forward. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the turmoil in his eyes begin to clear. Okay, he said after a long moment, his voice firm. Tell me everything. No more secrets, no more hiding. And so, I did. I told him about the parties, the relationships, the desperate search for validation in all the wrong places. I told him about the loneliness, the fear, and the eventual realization that led me to seek help and change my path. As the words poured out of me, I saw the tension in Michael's shoulders begin to ease. Not entirely, but enough to give me hope. enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could weather this storm together. The revelations of that morning laid bare the deepest parts of my soul, exposing the scars I had fought so hard to hide. But in doing so, they also offered a glimmer of something rare and precious, true understanding and the chance for a new beginning. The revelations had barely settled when the true storm hit. Michael had been distant, his demeanor cold and unreachable in the days that followed our heart-to-heart. The atmosphere at home became charged with a tension that was almost palpable, a precursor to the inevitable eruption that would shatter the fragile peace we had managed to find. It happened on a Friday evening, the kind of night that had once promised rest and connection after a long week. But as we sat in silence, the distance between us felt insurmountable. "Julia," Michael's voice cut through the silence, sharp and demanding. "There's something else, isn't there? Something you're not telling me." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. "What do you mean, Michael?" I asked, though a part of me already knew. "Don't play dumb, Julia. It's insulting." His words were like daggers, and I could see the anger simmering in his eyes. "I overheard a conversation today at work. About you. About an orgy." The blood drained from my face. This was the one secret I had prayed he would never discover. The one part of my past I couldn't bear to share, even as I had vowed to lay everything else bare. "Michael, please," I began, my voice trembling. "It was a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake." "A mistake," he echoed, his voice rising in fury. "You call participating in an orgy with our colleagues a mistake? How am I supposed to trust anything you say?" I was lost, Michael. I was so deeply lost, I pleaded, tears starting to blur my vision. I thought I needed that kind of attention, that kind of validation. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. Wrong doesn't even begin to cover it, Julia. His outburst filled the room, his anger palpable. How could you? How could you do something like that and not think it would come back to haunt us? I thought I could leave it in the past. I thought we could move past it together, I said, my voice barely a whisper amidst the storm. Move past it? How, Julia? How do we move past something like this? Michael paced back and forth, his hands clenched into fists. I look at you, and all I can see are the lies. The secrets. How do you expect me to touch you, to love you, knowing what you've done? His words cut deeper than any knife, each syllable a testament to the pain and betrayal he felt. I'm sorry, I sobbed, the weight of my past and the fear of losing him overwhelming me. I'm so sorry, Michael. I never meant to hurt you. Sorry doesn't fix this, Julia, he shouted, his frustration boiling over. You've broken us. You've broken me. I reached out to him, desperate for any sign of forgiveness, of hope. But he recoiled from my touch as if it burned him. I don't know if I can be with you, Julia. I don't know if I can look at you and not see that. The room fell silent, the air thick with words left unsaid and wounds too deep to heal. In that moment, the distance between us felt like a chasm too wide to bridge, our love a fragile thread frayed beyond repair. The confrontation laid bare the depth of our pain, a raw and brutal reminder of the scars we both carried. And as the night wore on, the silence between us grew, a testament to the uncertainty and heartache that lay ahead. In the aftermath of our explosive confrontation, the house felt colder, the silence between us a tangible barrier. Michael had moved to the guest room, and our interactions became a series of brief, necessary exchanges, each word measured and heavy with unspoken regret. One evening, as the autumn leaves danced in the chill wind outside, I found Michael sitting alone in the dim light of the living room, a sight that had become all too common. Michael, I began hesitantly, standing at the threshold. Can we talk? Really talk? He looked up, his eyes reflecting a mix of pain and weariness. I don't know, Julia. What's left to say? There's so much left, Michael. So much we haven't said. I took a cautious step into the room, the distance between us feeling like miles. He sighed, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of the world. All right, let's talk. I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. I know I've hurt you, more than I ever thought possible, but I want to make it right, if you'll let me. How, Julia? How can we make this right? His voice was tired, yet I detected a hint of curiosity, a sliver of openness that hadn't been there before. Therapy, for one. Together and separately. We need help to navigate through this, to understand each other and ourselves better. I suggested, hoping he would see the sincerity in my offer. He was silent for a long moment, considering. And what if it's too late? What if we're too broken to fix? I don't believe it's too late. Not if we're both willing to try. To really try. I moved closer, daring to bridge the gap with more than just words. Michael met my gaze, searching, always searching. It's going to be hard, Julia. There will be moments when we'll wonder if it's worth it. I know. My agreement was soft but firm. But I also believe in us, in the love we have. It's worth fighting for, Michael. You're worth it. A spark of something flickered in his eyes, a mix of hope and fear. Julia, I'm scared. Scared of getting hurt again, of hurting you. I'm scared too, I confessed, allowing my vulnerability to show. But I'm more scared of losing you, of losing what we could have. He took a deep breath, the decision weighing heavily on him. Finally, he nodded. Okay, we'll try. Therapy, talking, whatever it takes. But Julia, we have to be honest. No more secrets, no more hiding. No more secrets, I agreed, feeling a weight lift at his words. We face this together, Michael. No matter what comes, we face it together. As we sat there, the gap between us physically and emotionally narrowing, I felt a fragile sense of hope begin to take root. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges and painful truths, but for the first time in a long while, I believed we could emerge stronger, healed. Our conversation that night marked the beginning of a long, arduous path towards healing and understanding. With each session, each difficult discussion, we learned to navigate the complexities of our emotions, to forgive ourselves and each other. The process was far from easy, fraught with setbacks and moments of doubt. Yet, with every step forward, the hope that had sparked between us in the dim light of the living room grew brighter, a beacon guiding us through the darkness. As the narrative of healing and hope unfolded, it became clear that the path to reconciliation was not linear, nor was it guaranteed. But the commitment to try, to fight for the love that had once seemed unbreakable, offered a promise of something new, something stronger built from the ruins of the past. The story of Julia and Michael, of their journey through confrontation and pain towards healing and hope, remained unfinished, a testament to the ongoing nature of love, forgiveness, and the human capacity for change. As winter's frost thawed into the gentle embrace of spring, the world around us seemed to echo the tentative steps Michael and I were taking towards a new beginning. The process of healing had been grueling, with therapy sessions that often felt like reopening old wounds to let them heal properly. Yet, with each passing day, the chasm that had once seemed insurmountable began to narrow, giving way to bridges built on understanding, forgiveness, and a deep-seated love that refused to be extinguished. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the world, Michael and I found ourselves sitting on our back porch, a place that had witnessed the full spectrum of our relationship's highs and lows. Julia, Michael began, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between us. Do you remember the first time we sat out here together? I smiled, the memory vivid in my mind. How could I forget? You were so nervous, trying to impress me with your cooking. He chuckled, the sound rich with warmth. Yeah, well, we both know how that turned out. The steak was practically charcoal. But I loved it, I said, reaching out to squeeze his hand. Because it was from you. It was real, and it was heartfelt. Just like us. Michael's gaze met mine, intense and full of emotion. Julia, these past months, they've been some of the hardest in my life. But they've also made me realize something. What's that? I asked, my heart beating a little faster. That I don't want to imagine my life without you in it. Despite everything, the pain, the hurt, you're the one I want by my side. His voice was steady, but I could see the vulnerability in his eyes. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, a mix of joy and relief washing over me. Michael, I feel the same. I was so afraid of losing you, of being too broken for us to ever find our way back to each other. We're both a little broken, he admitted, his thumb brushing against my hand. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's about how we fit together, broken edges and all. I nodded, a sense of profound understanding passing between us. So, where do we go from here? Can we really start anew, after everything? Michael stood, pulling me up to stand with him. He wrapped his arms around me, and I rested my head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. I think we can, Julia. But it's going to be a journey. There might be more bumps along the way, more challenges we'll have to face. I looked up at him, finding strength in his embrace. But we'll face them together, won't we? Always, he promised, sealing his vow with a kiss that spoke of hope, of forgiveness, and of a love that had endured the fiercest of storms. As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, I realized that this was what a new beginning felt like. Not an erasure of the past, but a choice to move forward, to write new chapters together with the knowledge that the story we shared was far from over. The night grew deeper, the stars above us a testament to the beauty that can be found in the darkness. And in that moment, I allowed myself to believe in the possibility of our new beginning, in the future we could build from the ashes of our past. Michael and I stepped back into the house, hand in hand, our hearts lighter than they had been in months. The path ahead was uncertain, and the scars we bore would not easily fade. Yet, as we looked into each other's eyes, we saw not just the reflection of our pain, but the promise of healing, of growth, and of a love reborn in the crucible of our trials. Our journey was not concluded. It was merely entering a new phase, one filled with the potential for joy, for discovery, and for a deeper, more resilient bond. And as we closed the door behind us, stepping into the warmth of our home, I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it together, stronger and more united than ever before.